everybody. Welcome to Tea Time. That's right. It's Monday night, 8 o'clock. It's October 5th, people. Is that crazy? I'm going to talk about my weekend real quick. Get to my guest. Friday didn't do much. Really just chilled, relaxed. You know, I'm a thrifter, so every Friday morning I go thrifting. Friday night, not too much. Saturday I went to Queens because it was Today is my parents' 63rd wedding anniversary. Bobby's going to put up a picture of my parents. Stunning. My mother looks like Liz Taylor. My father's got the pompadour going back. 63 years. I said to my mother, Ma, that's like eating chicken for 63 years. Don't you feel like a hamburger or a hot dog every now and then? She says, girl, you got to learn to make chicken a lot of different ways. So here's to my parents making chicken a lot of different ways for the last 63 years. And then SNL. I watched SNL Saturday night. Chris Rock hosted. It was a great show. A lot of fun. Good to see them back. And then yesterday, Sunday, really didn't do much. Just stuff around the house, relaxed, chilled, and, getting ready for the week and my show for tonight. As far as the rest of my information goes, Bobby's going to throw up some pictures too. I want to mention Rescuing Families is a nonprofit. They raise money for people with disabilities, and they're having a sidewalk sale this weekend. So if you're in Franklin Square area, go and support. The money goes to a great cause. Also, Bat Boy, a Yankee Miracle, is returning virtual in November. I play Aunt Olga, a Puerto Rican woman with a dark wig. In the first half of the show, I will make you cry. Second half, I throw in a blonde and I'm ditzy and I make you laugh. Little like schizophrenia, but you'll have a great time. So we're going to be announcing that when it gets closer to November. Also, I'm really excited to announce that someone nominated Tea Time to be the Best of Long Island 2021 Bethpage. So, like a politician, I have to ask for people to vote for me. So I'm going to ask you to Google the Best of Long Island Bethpage 2021. Go to Arts and Entertainment section and then click on podcast and vote for me. Vote for Tea Time because I really want to win. There's 18 of us in this category, and I'm just honored and blessed that someone even thought of me and nominated my show. All right, so listen, that's all my announcements. I'm going to get to my guest. Michael Loftus is in the house. He's a comedian, he's a writer, he's a producer, and I'm so excited that you're joining me tonight. Hello, Michael.
This is fantastic, and congrats on the nomination. That's actually
thank you.
18 shows listed. That's competition.
Now, I got a 1 in 18 chance.
Right. Remind people how to vote. They Google Best of Long Island.
Long Island Bethpage, and they go to Arts and Entertainment section, and then click on podcast, and you scroll down to Tea Time. Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's really exciting.
And you know what? We're going to take the high road, and we're not going to talk smack about the other shows.
Never.
We're just going to do the best. We're just going to do the best episode of Tea Time we can.
That's right. So listen, Michael.
Yes.
I want everyone to know all about you. I know a little bit about you. We met a couple of years ago at Governor's. You're originally from Columbus, Ohio, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Grew up in Columbus, Ohio, a wonderful little, it's like the crossroads of America, what have you. Started doing stand-up there.
You actually went to Ohio State, correct?
Yeah.
And you started a comedy troupe called the Midwest Comedy Tool and Die.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was the very first night I did stand-up. Someone who was putting together a comedy group saw me, and she was like, I think you'd be very good at improvisation. Would you like to try it out? I had never heard of it, but I thought the idea of doing sketches and being goofy would be fun. So I went to one of the rehearsals and just had an absolute blast. And having that improv training really helped my stand-up and helped my writing and public speaking and all of it. That was a lot of fun. We would do improv and we would do silly songs and sketches. Yeah.
That's the best. It's so much fun to do. I actually, when I left stand-up to have my daughter, because I did stand up in the early 90s. I was Theresa Manzo back then. And then I left, I had my daughter, and I came back about 4 years ago because Bob Nelson was looking for comics to do improv with him.
Oh, wow.
Thanks to Bob, I got back into comedy again.
How's Bob Nelson doing? How's that guy doing?
He's doing well. He's okay. I mean, I haven't really talked to him lately. I reach out to his wife Trish every now and then just to, check on them, see how they are. As far as I know, they're doing well, which is a good thing. And I hope to see him soon because I really do miss him. He was one of the guys that I watched, growing up.
I can remember being at my friend's house watching the HBO Young Comedian special and physically hurting. That dude hurt me. We were just on the ground, huddled up. He's got the balloons. He did the whole football routine.
Yeah.
I know what UNICEF is. That's the Halloween disease.
Oh my God, who did you look up to? Growing up, who were your favorite comics?
It's strange. My dad was a really funny guy, and he had like Bob Newhart albums and a Jonathan. We had a Jonathan Winters album that was great, and then my best friend Kevin, his dad was in the Merchant Marines, right? And he had this big Foot Locker. So his dad would go out and get aboard ship, and he'd be gone for like a month. So we broke into this Foot Locker. We were like 13 years old, and we thought for sure we were going to find like Playboys and like naked women. We found it was better than that. We found Richard Pryor and Red Fox, and like we listened to those Richard Pryor albums so much they were memorized. We could just recite them. We would walk to school together with our little backpacks, just doing Richard Pryor routines back and forth. That was the big game, because Richard Pryor had those elements of Jonathan Winters. He did so much character stuff was, and it was just the best. That dude was the total package. He had the smarts of George Carlin, who I looked up to that guy a lot. The smarts of George Carlin, but he could also, like, it was like theater. He was like presenting these wild characters, and just so that was those were big influences.
Obviously I didn't get to meet him while he was alive, but I did have his son Richard Pryor Jr. on my show.
Oh wow!
Richard also worked with his dad on a lot of his movies behind the scenes, and but he's more of a singer, believe it or not. He's got a phenomenal voice. He's a really good singer.
What does he sing? What style of music?
I think he does like a little of everything. The last time he performed, this was last winter, I went to go see him. He came out with a book called In My Prior Life. And Rain was there, and he was doing a signing, and I was with a friend of mine who knew Rain. So it was nice meeting him. And I like I said, I had him on my show, and he was great. And he looks a lot like his dad,
Oh yeah.
And he says it's a blessing and a curse to have the same name.
Yeah.
People expect stuff,
Well, good for him for going into singing, because there's no way he's going to be a comedian. There's no way. No. I think Richard Pryor's daughter might have tried to do stand up at some point, but that's just like a tough one.
His other son did. I can't remember his name. He did the Apollo, and I don't think he got a great reception, unfortunately. You can't expect Richard Pryor to be on stage at the Apollo when it's not him. You know what I mean?
A buddy of mine, we both started comedy around the same week in Columbus. And he made this journey to New York. And I'm like, oh, that's so brave. It's so brave. I'm like, oh, he's going to do stand-up in New York, the big city and all this stuff. And he did Showtime at the Apollo. And he walked out. They announced his name. He walked out. And the boos, he was just booed. He just went and he just kept walking. He just kept walking. He didn't even.
People told me when I started in comedy in the 90s that if you can do Pips in Brooklyn, which is Dice's house.
Oh.
If you could do Pips in Brooklyn, you could do anywhere. But I think the Apollo is an exception.
I'd like to. I'd love to try it. I'd love to try it. I'm an idiot for that stuff. I'll take the challenge.
I'm punishment. I give it a shot.
Yeah. I'm a little sick.
You got to lose. Come on. Rejection. We know what that word is.
Yeah. Kids, if you're watching this show at home, if you want a life of rejection and heartache, Sign up for comedy lessons. Just be a stand-up.
Entertainment business. So you eventually moved to LA and you wrote and performed for the Acme Comedy Theater. What year
Yes.
was that? When was that?
Oh my gosh, that was 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were in LA like almost 20 years then.
Yeah, yeah. I moved out to Los Angeles and was having, like most people do, a hard time getting stage time. And I would go to the Melrose Improv and just hang out. And I would have really great comedians vouch for me, like Alan Havey, like introduced me. He goes, "Hey, this is my buddy Michael Loftus. We've been on the road. He's really funny. If someone doesn't show up, put this guy up." So I would just go hang out, and very rarely would someone not show up. So then I thought, well, I could do sketch comedy, and I looked into the Groundlings, and I just didn't. It just didn't strike me as a. Well, how should I say this? There's a lot of levels to the Groundlings. You got to go through this class, then you got to go through that class, and you got to go through this class. It takes a long, long time. And I had already been on the road. I'd been doing stand up. I was a headliner. I'd had a lot of.
So what can they really do? I mean, you were experienced at that time.
Yeah. So I went to Acme and just went into their beginners level improv, and the guy who ran the theater and the person who ran the school quickly realized, like, oh wow, this guy. So I kind of got fast tracked and was getting decent stage time with them, and just met a bunch of great people, made a lot of friends. And now it's too funny. What is her name? This girl, we did sketch comedy together at Acme, and she always turns up in like the weirdest projects. And like the other day, I was watching like American Horror Stories, and I'm like, what is she doing here? And she was like a series lead. She's doing great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you prefer writing comedy or do you prefer performing comedy?
Oh, performing, hands down. It's fun to write stuff for other people and to see what they do with it. And, writing for television and helping friends out, write stand up and all that good stuff is always fun. But always the most rewarding is I'm selfish. I want to be the guy on stage.
I hear you. I totally hear you. Hello, Greg DiFilippo's watching in sunny, hot Florida. Thank you, my friend, for watching. Everyone, please like the show and share it. I'm talking to Michael Loftus. He's a comedian. He's a writer. He's a producer. And he's from Columbus, Ohio, and he worked his way out to LA about 20 years ago. And my question is to you, because you've worked with so many great people, and you also got on the comedy festivals for a while. In '98, you did Aspen. In 2000, you were in Montreal. 2011, you were in South Africa, which I heard is like the best one to do.
Yeah.
Because I know a couple of people who were there. How'd you get on that circuit? You have to submit tapes, right?
Yes, that was a tape submission, and it was and I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember the timeline. A friend of mine, Pablo Francisco, really funny guy.
Oh, nice Jewish name, yeah.
Yeah, Pablo had a clip of his stand-up that went viral, like in Sweden and all these Scandinavian countries and Iceland. So he had gone to Iceland and just crushed. And they were like, "We want you back. We want you back." And he goes, "I won't have enough material. Can I bring a friend back?" So Pablo invited me and another comedian, Corey Holcomb, and we went over to Iceland, and they were so happy we were there, and they were such great people. And then the promoters, I believe, vouched for me to the people who were putting together the South Africa thing. In South Africa, that was nuts. Iceland was nuts, and South Africa was just insane.
I heard the people there were amazing. I had Maureen Langan on my show, and she did South Africa, and she said it was the best ever.
Yeah, it was good. Johannesburg is a lot like Los Angeles. It's really strange. It's landlocked. Johannesburg was built because I think they found diamonds or gold there. So it's a really weird town. There's no river. There's no big body of water. It's just like this town in the middle of nowhere, but it's huge. But then you get down to Cape Town. Forget about it. Lights out. We know what we should do? We should open up a pizza shop in Cape Town.
There you go.
We'd make a fortune. The people are lovely. The pizza is awful.
That's great. Oh my gosh. All right, listen, everybody, we're going to take our first quick break. Don't go away. We're going to be back in about 60 seconds with Michael Loftus. We'll be right back.
Wow.
So where do you want to go tonight?
Are you bored?
Oh my God.
Hold on tight. We're going to Coasters.
Coasters Tavern is located at 487 Newbridge Road in East Meadow. Their number's 516-557-2222.
Well, hi there, Theresa. It's John York from General Hospital. I am just checking in because apparently you have a great talk show called Tea Time on Strong Island TV. I want you to have continued great success and have a lot of fun. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun, and that's pretty much the key to everything, isn't it? So continued success. I'm proud of you. Have a great day, Theresa. Bye.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Tea Time. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. I have Michael Loftus here with me. He's a comedian, he's a writer, he's a producer, and we're talking about his comedy career journey and how everything has happened. And, I have to tell you, you are a television producer, and you've worked at CBS, FX Network, Warner Brothers. These aren't shabby names we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how did you make that leap from comedy into writing and now producing? Because you've produced Kevin James's show, Kevin Can Wait. You were a writer on the George Lopez show. You were a writer and you produced for Anger Management starring Charlie Sheen. So how did that leap happen?
It is one of those, looking back on it now at the ripe old age, it's one of those insane Hollywood stories. It's one of those bizarre twist of fates. So I moved out to LA, was doing Acme, and then was always like hustling, right? Like I would go to the Improv, and if no one shows up, I'm in enough comics that vouch for me. I started getting up at the Improv.
Right.
A buddy of mine had set up an audition for this club in Pasadena called the Ice House, which has been a comedy club since like the 1950s. The Smothers Brothers recorded their albums there. Steve Martin started doing comedy there. Bob Newhart recorded an album. So anyway, he is, my buddy goes, "Hey, would you want to go with me?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll go. I'll hang out." And, so I'm out. We're waiting for the show to start. I'm out in the parking lot, having a cigarette, right? Just smoking, like kids don't do this. And talking to some other guy about music, and we're talking about guitars and stuff. And this guy comes out and he goes, "Hey man, are you a comedian?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm the manager of the club. A comic didn't show. Can you do 10 minutes? He goes, do you have 10 minutes of material?
Right.
And I'm like, I'll try. I'll see what I So I got it. So it went very well. They immediately invited me back, and they're like, would you mind emceeing? I'm like, I'll MC, whatever. So smash cut to, I had done like the Montreal Comedy Festival and it was like a TV show on the Animal Planet. They were doing comedy and animals, some weird thing. So I was putting together a set for that. So I go to the Ice House and I'm doing like a 4-minute set, TV clean, no curse words or anything. Set goes really well. I get off stage, go to the green room to get my jacket, and there's this Latino dude standing back there looking over his notes. And he had watched the show on the monitor, and he goes, hey man, what's your name? I go, oh, I'm Michael Loftus. He goes, wow, you're a funny, mother effer. And I got a TV show coming out. We're working on the pilot now, and I want funny people like you to write on it. And I'm like, okay.
And it was
give me your phone number. And that was that guy was that dude was George Lopez.
Wow.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe. So like,
the bottom line is I say this all the time. You can have all the talent in the world, and you can know a crap load of people, but it's all about timing. It's all about timing.
There is a lot of that. So they call me up like a month later, and they go, George says you're funny, but we need to know if you can write. And I'm like, oh, I can write, because I'm like, I'd done sketch comedy and I'd written sketches.
Right.
And they go, well, send us a writing sample. Send us a spec script that you've written. And I go, okay, well, I'm on my way. I was on my way out the door. I was heading to San Francisco to do a weekend show. And I go, I'll get it to you when I get back. And they're like, okay, that's fine. So I freak out. I'm like, I don't have a spec script. I don't have a writing sample. Right. So I'm calling friends of mine. Like, what do I do? So I go up to San Francisco. During the day, I'm writing a spec script, which is like an episode of television that they never made. I like that show, Malcolm in the Middle. So I wrote a fake episode of that. Okay. So I wrote that on Friday and Saturday afternoon, drove home, finished it on Sunday, turned it in on Monday, and they were like, well, this is great. Come on in for a meeting. So that's what got me in the door. And then I went from 1 day a week. They would have the script finished. We'd all go around, and I would kind of like, oh, you could do this joke here or that joke there. So I was adding jokes to the script, and they were like, wow, you're pretty good at this. And then they go, you can do 2 days a week. And then I kept going, and I didn't know. Like, I would go in on a Tuesday. There was another dude coming in on Monday. There was a dude on Wednesday. There was a dude on. So we were all competing for the same job. And then eventually they said, well, why don't you do this full time? You could just come in 5 days a week. And I went, okay. Because it was so insanely glamorous. Like,
I'm sure.
Like, I was on the Warner Brothers lot, and there's the big water tower, and movie stars are walking by, and I'm just like, whoa, I've arrived. One day, I'm walking to get a cup of coffee, and like you could just feel like the barometer in the atmosphere just changed, and everybody starts walking slow, and I'm like, are we about to have an earthquake? Why are things all tingly? Angelina Jolie was walking by, and she just has such star power. She affected time and space.
Oh my God, that's great. And then after George's show, you went to Anger Management with Charlie Sheen?
Yeah. There was one little show in between there called Outsourced that was on NBC.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a single camera show set in India. And I always feel like that was the show where we got ripped off. That cast was amazing. And it was such a wonderful show. And it was one of those things where, like you say, everything is timing. Everything is. We did 24 episodes of this show, and it was just fantastic. And it was heartwarming, and it was funny, and it was beautiful. And then the head of NBC got replaced. And the new guy was like, it's not my cup of tea. You guys are you're getting great ratings, but I just want more room for my show.
But I thought
So
that's what it was all about in Hollywood. I thought it was about ratings.
a lot of it is about who owns the show and who's gonna.
Oh.
There's a lot of money on the table. There's a lot of money on the table. So we had a good run, and then I was very fortunate to go on to anger management with Charlie Sheen. That was a roller coaster.
How long were you there? How long were you on that show?
A little over 2 years. We did 100 episodes of television in a little over 2 years, which was just insane. They tried this new business model where syndication is where you make your money, right? You put the show on, and that's an expensive version of the show. That's the first one. Then when you show it in a rerun, now you're just making money because you already have the show. You're just presenting it again. Then when you go into syndication, now you're really talking. So
now, is it true that you have to have a minimum of 3 seasons in order to get residuals and syndicated?
Pretty much. The number that everybody used to shoot for back in the old days, in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, was 100 episodes. You needed 100 episodes before you can go into syndication. It's dropped now to like 60, 65, I think, maybe even lower.
Wow.
For syndication. But that's what they did with Charlie Sheen, because he had just had that big blow up at CBS.
Yes.
With 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
So it was Lionsgate and FX. They just offered him a pile of money, and they just said, we're going to do 100 episodes as fast as we can, so it'll be like instant syndication.
Wow.
And that's what we did. But that was crazy. That was like slapping down the railroad track, and the train is right behind you. We just went for it. 2 years. I
was going to say you would probably were exhausted after that.
Oh yeah. After that, I'm like, I'm done. I will never write on another television show ever. As much as I love Charlie, and as proud as I am of that show and the friends that I made there, and as wonderful as that process was, I'm like, no, I'm just going to do stand-up. That's it. Stand-up comedy. No more writing.
That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be squeezed into a short amount of time.
Yeah, it was crazy. We would do about 2 episodes a week, but then sometimes something would happen and you would go, okay, we can't film that scene now. We'll pick that up later. So in 2 weeks, you're filming 2 different episodes, but then you got to get this scene from that show. And like, people talk a lot of smack about Charlie Sheen, but they've never worked with that guy. And he is a phenomenal talent.
I'm a fan of his work. I've watched his movies. I've watched his shows. I was always a fan. And, you got to keep the personal stuff personal and professional stuff professional. And
yeah.
When I hate when someone says, I can't stand him. Do you personally know the person? This is what gets me crazy. I'm like, you know what? You can't talk smack about somebody if you don't personally know them. If you do, that's one thing. But if you don't talk bad about someone if you don't know them.
And then it's too funny. And I find this a lot between like a comedian performer like yourself and for me, like even we can separate the art from the artist. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't listen to Michael Jackson now. I can't even listen to it. And I'm like,
seeing his documentary. Right.
I'm like, I can totally, I can still jam out to some Michael Jackson.
I can too. it's like you said, you keep things separate and in perspective. And I don't know. I just, I'm not like that. Totally.
Yeah. But like, I respect people who can. Like, I know my uncle who was in the Vietnam War, he cannot bear the sight of Jane Fonda. And I'm like,
yeah, because my father feels the same way.
Yeah. So I don't whichever side of the fence you guys are on, but like sometimes it just gets you so bad you just can't handle it. You hear those people go, I can't even look at her face. I can't even. I get it.
I know, I know. I hear you. I totally hear you. Listen, we're talking with Michael. I'm talking with Michael Loftus, and he's a comedian, he's a writer, he's a producer. He's had an amazing career, and I love talking about it. But I have to take a really quick break. I'll be back in 60 seconds. Don't go away, people. We'll be back with Michael. Bobby,
Yeah, we were in the break. I had a little glitch. It wouldn't trigger. We're in the break.
Really? Okay, no, I didn't hear you. So
Yeah, no, I don't unmute myself until I go to the commercial, and I'm clicking it, and it just won't go.
yeah, I know last week was the Jewish holiday and the viewership was down. This week I shared it to a crap load.
So where do you want to go tonight?
Why don't we go to Coasters?
Oh, cool. I heard it's a great place. Let's check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Oh my God. Coasters Tavern is located at 487 New Bridge Road in East Meadow. Their number's 516-557-2222.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Time. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. October 5th. It's October 5th. I know everyone can't wait till this year is over, but I'm with Michael Loftus. He's a comedian, he's a writer, he's a producer, amazing career. He's been a television producer at CBS and Fox Network and Warner Brothers, and he was working with George Lopez show and Charlie Sheen on anger management. And then you produced Kevin James's show, Kevin Can Wait.
Yeah, and
that happened.
and that's how I wound up here.
Back in Nueva York.
Right? It's the craziest thing. A guy that I had worked with on a couple of other television shows teamed up with Kevin and one of his friends from King of Queens, and they had a project that they wanted to do at CBS called Kevin Can Wait.
Right.
So my buddy called me up pretty deep into the process. They already had the script pretty much figured out. And he goes, "Hey, could you come over this afternoon, read this, and we'll just make it a little bit better, a little bit tighter." And so I went to a meeting at his place with the script and was pitching some jokes and making little tiny changes and adjustments. And Kevin's buddy and the writer of the show and was like, "Hey, you're a funny dude. Would you mind coming out? We're going to film the show in Long Island. Would you mind coming out to Long Island for the filming of the pilot?" And I had never met Kevin James. I had never watched King of Queens because I was busy. We're comedians.
You were working. You were doing things. Hello.
So I had never met this guy, and we're at this little studio out in Bethpage.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Is hilarious. He is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was, I'm doing my job. Hopefully I'm making the show a little bit better and a little bit funnier, but we just had so much fun. And unfortunately that show didn't go more than 2 seasons.
Right.
And everybody's busy, but then we're doing another show now out here for Netflix, which Kevin called me up and was like, "Hey, Lofty, will you help out with this one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got for a guy who grew up in Ohio, I feel, and I'm not even kidding, I feel so much more at home here than I do in Los Angeles. Like this,
Wow.
like Long Island especially feels normal to me. The city is weird. Manhattan is weird, but
Yes.
Long Island is great. You guys are so liberated. You don't hold back. You let people know how you're feeling. You'll scream at the cashier at Target. I love it.
Most of us on Long Island came from Brooklyn or Queens. You know, we came from other boroughs out here.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
why we
good.
don't hold back.
You don't. And it's so like, I'll be standing in line at Target and someone will just be yelling, check the coupon, check the coupon. And I'm like, I thought we were supposed to say that stuff in our heads. I didn't know you could scream it.
The show for Netflix, what's it called?
It's called The Crew, and it'll be out this winter.
Yes. And I actually came to a taping, and my friend Joey Cola is the warm-up comic there.
Joey Cola not only is a fine human being and a wonderful comedian, he's got a hamburger named after him at Governor's Comedy Club.
I know.
And that's the best burger they got. That's the best burger. Here's what it is, you guys. Here's what it is, viewers. They take a burger, then they got cheese, and then they put potato chips on it. Boom! It's delicious.
God, it's so funny. I went to a taping, and I thought it was great.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Once again, it's very weird. It's like the show that I did for NBC. The cast was just fantastic,
Yes.
and the product was fantastic. I get that same vibe off of this one. That the cast, there's a lot of people that you've never seen before on television. You never heard of them, but they come from Broadway. They come from other television shows, and this is kind of like a little bit of a bump up.
Yeah.
But they're so incredibly talented. And then Kevin's a great guy, and he's got his friends that are popping in, and
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually met Kevin and his brother Gary years ago in the early 90s when I was doing stand-up. I met him at Governor's, him and
Yeah.
Gary. Gary was blonde, very, very blonde back then, and very, 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 very skinny like this.
Wow.
Yeah, and funny. They were both funny and hysterical and sweet back then,
Yeah.
So
It's always fun. It's always fun when you see those old headshots.
Oh, yeah.
You look at somebody like I've been in the business for a while, and then you'll go back and like, whoa.
Well, listen, I have to tell you, I do a lot of background information on my guests, and I Google everything, and I Wikipedia everything, and I watch videos, and I have to say, I was watching you do your thing, and it was making me laugh because you were talking about being married and your wife, and you had dark hair back then too. You look the same.
Yeah.
Nothing's really changed except your hair color. But very funny. I mean, I was laughing. It's hard to make me laugh. It's hard to make other comics laugh. But when you laugh, because we're just so critical of each other,
Right? And and I feel like we kind of get robbed in that way.
We do.
Because friends of ours, they're like, oh my gosh, I just watched this special on Netflix. You have to see it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then you sit it and you're like, yeah, that was really funny. Yep, that's hilarious.
I have to say, my last show I did was, I think, on March 9th at Dangerfields. And a friend of mine, Jeff Kreiner, is a producer, and he's producing a show called LMAO, Laugh My Ass Off.
Okay.
And he contacted me and said, Theresa, I'm coming to New York. We're doing this all over the country. I'm coming to New York. Would you like to be part of the show? I said, yes, Jeff, of course. And it was great. I had a great time. It was a blast. And but I miss it. We were at a rally at Governor's regarding comedy, and I wanted to grab that microphone after you got up, and I wanted to say, listen, I can walk into a germ-infested hot box called the gym right now, but can't do comedy even outside, which is insane. Right? You can stick your 3 fingers in those nasty holes called a ball. Right?
Okay. Woo! That was close. I thought you were going somewhere else.
I was going. But you can't do comedy, and it's getting on everyone's nerves. It really is. Everyone wants to laugh, and you know what it is? We're all in the same boat now. every single one of us who does comedy and can't. Our hands are tied and our mouths are bound, and yet, a lot of Zoom shows are going on, and it's like doing comedy after not doing comedy for so long. It's like taking off the training wheels and a little unsteady until you pedal faster and faster and faster, and then it becomes smoother and smoother and smoother. And you find like, wow, hey, I remember half the stuff. It's better than none.
It's funny. I was back in May, during the lockdown. The improv comedy clubs, Dallas, Texas, Florida, not every state locked down like New York did.
Yeah.
And so the improv in Dallas, I think it was the second week of May, they called me up and they go, we're going to open. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take temperatures. We're going to spread the tables out. We usually seat 300 people. We're going to do 125, very safe, very safe.
Right.
But they asked if I would come down and do shows, and they're like, "You'll be the first comic back doing live shows." And I'm like, "Absolutely." And I went down there, but I took my notebook. I had because it had been a while. I had my notebook, but it was so much fun, and it was such a great time.
Yeah.
And then, coming back to Long Island, and then I heard that Governor's was up and running and that they had built that patio, and I'm like, well, this is fantastic.
For a very short time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's outdoors. The people were spread apart. People are wearing masks. The temperatures are being taken. It couldn't be safer. And when New York shut that down, that was, listen, I'm a big time, I'm into small government. I don't think big government's ever the solution. That's why I started my website, theloftusparty.com. Everybody.
I'm going to get to that. Yeah. We're going
Alrighty. So I was furious that they would do that. You can go have a meal and sit outside.
Yes.
But if someone starts telling jokes, we got to shut you down. If someone starts playing the guitar, they shut you down. And that it's ridiculous and wrong, and it's a horrible oversight. And these are, as much as I'm concerned about the people who have COVID and we want them to live and want everybody to do well, I'm also concerned about the people who cannot make a living.
I know.
And as a comedian, a lot of times you're an independent contractor, and I know a lot of performers who didn't get a nickel of any stimulus money. They didn't get. So I don't know what people are doing, and that's what you got to find that balance.
I mean, I have to say, I myself haven't worked. In my situation, I had a brain tumor 5 years ago, and I needed brain surgery, and I really haven't worked a full-time job.
Yeah.
I married Michael the second time, and a lot of people say, "What did you get married the second time for?" I said 2 words: medical benefits. Okay. So anyway, I joke, but it's true. Anyway, so my whole thing is that my mother always said, you save for a rainy day, save for a rainy day, save for a rainy day. And a lot of us, a lot of people live beyond their means, but this put people in check. I think it gave people a wake-up call as to what they need to do, and what to adjust, as far as, survival. Because you're right, I know people too who haven't gotten any checks, and, there are a lot of people in the entertainment industry not happy with the union, not happy with what's going on. You're paying and paying and paying and paying, and now you need it and it's not there. So I know a lot of people are very, very frustrated, and I feel for them. I really do. It's frustrating, because all we want to do is work. All we want to do is entertain. That's what we want to do. And God knows people need it right now. They need it. They really do.
And the only thing I'll add to that is, if you don't want to go out and see a show and you don't think it's safe, don't go.
Absolutely. Don't go.
No one's going to make anybody go. So everyone can be responsible.
Everyone can be responsible. On that quick note, we're going to take a quick break. 60 seconds. We'll be right back with more of Michael Loftus when we come back, because we're going to talk about the Loftus party and what he has going on other than Netflix and how you can follow him. We'll be right back.
So where do you want to go tonight?
Are you bored?
Oh my god!
Hold on tight. We're gonna coast this.
Coasters Tavern is located at 487 New Bridge Road in East Meadow. Their number's 516-557-2222.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tea Time. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. I'm with Michael Loftus. He's a comedian, writer, producer. Amazing career from Columbus, Ohio to LA and now New York, baby. And I want to talk about the Loftus party. You did a Fox Nation comedy special back April 17th. Tell me about the Loftus party.
Well, many moons ago, I was at the Melrose Improv, and this is during the Bush administration, George W. Bush, and every comedian had gone up and just talked about what a horrible president he was. He was the worst. He was a dumb cowboy. He was going to get us all killed, blah, 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 blah. And it was so, like, comedian after comic after comic after comic, like 10 dudes in a row. So I went up there just to be funny, and I'm like, George Bush is the best president America has ever had. He is, and so it was funny. And then I had comics coming up to me after the show, and they go, so is that a character, or are you really a Republican? And I go, well, I'm a small government guy, and I don't think George Bush is a complete idiot, and I'm glad he's president, and I'm not, whatever. So this weird thing started to bubble up where I was like, oh, that guy, he's not afraid to say he's a Republican, and he'll joke about politics and stuff. So when the 2016 election was coming around, I was working with a guy who knew some people at Fox News, and they asked me who I was going to vote for, and I'm like, oh, I'm voting for Trump. And they're like, would you say that publicly? And I'm like, and it was like scary. It was like so scary.
Wow.
And so I was on the Fox Business Channel. And this British gentleman, very funny guy, good guy, has a show. We're with a comedian here who's taking the risky proposition. He's going to admit publicly that he's voting for Donald Trump.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's crazy that it's gotten so bad in politics that people are afraid to publicly admit who they're going to vote for. Like, there's a very real threat. You can get beat up. So I started this website and a YouTube channel called the Loftus Party, where it's like, listen, I don't hate anybody. I want to have a good time. I don't think big government is the solution. I want to help out small businesses. I want to help out my fellow man. And so, yeah, I lean to the right politically, but we're having a good time, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and like I do a live stream on my Facebook page Wednesday nights at 8:30, the Loftus Party. So there was a guy who reached out to me during the lockdown, and he goes, I have a small family-owned dairy in Wisconsin. If you could mention it and maybe send some orders my way, I would appreciate it. And I'm like, of course, it's the easiest thing in the world for me to do. Right. So I'm doing my little live stream show, because we're all doing stuff during the lockdown. And this guy gets some more orders, and it's like, okay, so this is what it's all about. We're helping each other out. So check this out. So now we've got like over 30,000 people that are part of the Loftus party. They do the Facebook, the website, the whole thing.
Nice.
So like a month ago, I'm like, the cops are really getting a rough way to go. Like, God bless the police. And I say this with all sincerity. God bless you. If you are out there protecting our streets at night and keeping us safe, I love you.
Yes.
So I did a GoFundMe, and I'm like, if everybody kicks in like a couple of bucks, let's see how much money we can raise, and we'll pick out a precinct house and we'll buy everybody a meal. We raised enough money that last week I went down to the 7-0 in Brooklyn. The 7-0 in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And we were able to get morning, noon, and the overnight shift. We took care of, like, they at least could have a meal and they didn't have to worry about it. And we're doing another one tomorrow.
Nice.
So it's a real labor of love. It's the loftusparty.com. There's comedy, there's politics, there's weird nerd stuff. It's like an open community of just
loftusparty.com, and it's on Wednesdays at 8:30.
at Facebook. Yeah.
Facebook, so everyone go there and check it out. Also, tell me about the screenplay that you just finished, I think. Tell me about that.
Well, just like everybody, I'm not going to give away too much, but like just during lockdown,
yeah,
everybody, I think when this thing ends, there's going to be a huge creative, everybody who wants to write something wrote something. Like I've never written a novel before, and I'm working on a novel now.
Cool.
And I finished a screenplay that it needed updating, and so we'll see what happens with that. I'll knock on my fake brick wall.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah, it's a romantic comedy.
My fave.
Yeah. Well, I think there's room for that. I mean, if you look at, like, during the lockdown, this is a great example. Kevin James had that movie Zookeeper.
Yes.
And that was a hit when it came out. And then everybody was watching it again on Netflix during the lockdown. There's nothing wrong with a movie. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl, and you have a ton of laughs in between.
Yeah, because it's happened to all of us.
Yeah. So it's we'll see what happens with that. I'm very happy with that screenplay. The novel, I hope to be done with that in the next couple of months. And then in the very near future, I'm going to be going down to Nashville, a club called Zanies, and I'm going to be filming another comedy special for Fox Nation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I am so excited for you, really, that you have all these things going on. We have another minute, Michael. That's how fast my show goes. First of all, I want to thank you again for taking 55 minutes out of your time and spending it with me and my viewers. And I want to tell everyone to go to loftusparty.com on Facebook. It's Wednesday nights at 8:30. Michael, people can also follow you on Facebook and anywhere else too.
Everything is matchy-matchy. YouTube, The Loftus Party.
That's it, the Loftus Party. And I want to, before we go, I'm going to plug again and be a politician. I need your votes. Tea Time
guys.
voted Best of Long Island 2021 Beth page. And I need you to Google Best of Long Island Beth page. I need you to go to the arts and entertainment section, scroll down, click on Tea Time, and vote. Vote. And you can vote every day till December 15th.
I'm going to do it right now on my phone.
Do it right now. So listen, I want to thank you, Michael, from the bottom of my heart. This meant a lot to me that you came on Tea Time. You could come back anytime you want, honey. And
I hope so. If you'll have me back, I'll do it.
Absolutely. So you stay right there. I want to tell all my viewers, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next week. Ciao, everybody.